The Tuesday morning sun was deceptively peaceful as it filtered through the lace curtains of my kitchen in Burlington, Vermont. It was the kind of light Tom had loved, soft, golden, and smelling of the pine trees that guarded our 2-acre estate. I was 68 years old, a woman who had spent 37 years cataloging the world's knowledge as a head librarian. I believed in order. I believed in facts. I believed in family. Then, I opened my email. The subject line was a jagged blade, Dorothy's assessment, urgent. I hadn't scheduled an assessment. My breath hitched as I clicked. Within seconds, the tranquil morning vanished. I had been accidentally CC'd on a thread between my niece Amanda, her boyfriend Kyle, and a man identified only as Dr. Chen. The first line made the blood in my veins turn to ice. Chen confirmed he'll backdate the cognitive evaluation to last month. She won't know it's happening until the van pulls up to take her to Sunrise Hills. The house listing is ready to go live the moment the conservatorship is signed. I sat at my small oak table, my hand frozen on the mouse. Outside, the chickadees gathered at the feeder Tom had built for me before he passed 2 years ago. Everything looked the same, but I was staring at a map of my own destruction. 3 months ago, Amanda had called me sobbing. She was 32, the girl I'd held in the delivery room, the girl I'd taught to read among the stacks of the library. She claimed she'd lost her marketing job in Boston. Kyle's construction business was underwater. They were facing eviction. "Aunt Dorothy, please," she had whimpered. "Just for a few months. Just until we breathe again." I opened the guest cottage, Tom's old woodworking studio, without a second thought. I wanted the company. I wanted to be a mother figure again. But looking back at those 3 months through the lens of this email, I realized I hadn't invited in family. I had invited in professional predators. The gaslighting had been a masterpiece of subtlety. It started with small, feigned concerns. "Aunt Dorothy, are you sure you took your heart medication?" "I saw the bottle was full," Amanda would say, after she had secretly swapped my pills for a fresh bottle. "Dorothy, you asked me to fix this gate 3 times today. Are you feeling okay?" Kyle would add, his voice dripping with a fake, oily pity. I had begun to doubt my own shadow. I wondered if the grief for Tom was finally curdling into dementia. But the email thread laid it all bare. It was a calculated, financial assassination. They had calculated the value of my Lake Champlain view, $900,000, my pension, and Tom's life insurance. They even had a 40-40-20 split planned with my sister Patricia, the mother of the girl I loved, who had agreed to lie under oath to steal my autonomy. I didn't scream. I didn't march to the cottage to confront them. 37 years as a librarian had taught me one thing: the person with the most documentation wins. I spent that first hour in a cold, analytical trance. I screenshot every email. I forwarded the entire thread to a secret, old Yahoo account Amanda didn't know existed. I then called Margaret, a woman I'd known since the 80s who had retired from the Chittenden County Clerk's office. "Margaret," I said, my voice as level as a frozen lake. "How fast can an emergency conservatorship happen in this state? Dorothy, is everything all right? Just answer me, Margaret. If they have a doctor's signature and a family affidavit, 48 hours. You could be stripped of your legal rights before you even see a judge." "Why?" "I'll tell you when I'm safe," I replied. I spent the next 4 hours orchestrating a counteroffensive. I called Dr. Sarah Brennan, my physician for 20 years. I didn't tell her I was forgetful. I told her I was being hunted. By 4 p.m., I was in her office for a secret, grueling 4-hour cognitive battery. "Dorothy," Dr. Brennan said, looking at the results with a mix of awe and fury. "You're in the 95th percentile for your age group. You're sharper than the residents I train. Who is telling you otherwise?" "The people living in my backyard," I said. For the next week, I became the greatest actress Vermont had ever seen. I played the part of the fading aunt. I purposely let my hair go a bit messy. I forgot where I put my tea. I watched Amanda and Kyle exchange smug, victorious glances over the dinner table. "Don't worry, Auntie," Amanda said, patting my hand as she served a roast I had paid for. We're going to take care of everything for you soon. You won't have to worry about a thing. I looked into her eyes I used to see as bright and innocent, and saw only the calculation of a vulture. Behind her, Kyle was scrolling through Zillow on his phone, likely looking at the condos they'd buy with my blood money. On Thursday morning, the trap was sprung. Margaret called me from a burner phone. It's in the system, Dorothy. Amanda Morrison filed for emergency ex-parte conservatorship. They've submitted an evaluation from a Dr. Richard Chen. The hearing is tomorrow at 2 p.m. They've requested an immediate transfer to Sunrise Hills Memory Care. I thanked her and called my attorney, James Morrison. James, I said. Bring the heavy artillery. We're going to a funeral. Whose funeral, Dorothy? The version of me they think exists. The Chittenden County Probate Court was cold, smelling of floor wax and old paper. Amanda arrived looking like a saint in a modest charcoal dress, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Kyle stood beside her, the picture of the dutiful son-in-law. Even my sister Patricia was there, looking like a professional mourner. They hadn't seen me enter. I was tucked into a side room with James until the judge, Ruth Henderson, called the case. Petition for emergency conservatorship regarding Dorothy Harrison, the judge announced. Petitioner Amanda Morrison, please stand. Amanda stood, her voice a fragile, rehearsed quiver. Your Honor, it breaks our hearts. My aunt is. She's a danger to herself. She leaves the stove on. She gets lost in her own garden. We just want her to be safe in a facility that can handle her decline. She handed over the evaluation from Dr. Chen. I watched the judge read it. Then, James stood up. Your Honor, if I may, James said, his voice a thunderclap in the quiet room. We have a small rebuttal. Not just a medical one, but a digital confession. I walked into the courtroom then. I didn't look like a woman who forgot her tea. I wore a navy power suit, my hair perfectly coiffed, my eyes like flint. Amanda's face didn't just go pale, it turned a sickly, translucent white. Her jaw literally dropped. James handed the judge the printed email threads. Your Honor, these records show a 3-month conspiracy to commit elder financial exploitation. They show a 40-40-20 split of Mrs. Harrison's estate. And most importantly, they show a text message from Mr. Kyle Reynolds to Dr. Chen, offering a $5,000 consultation fee to backdate a false diagnosis. The silence in that courtroom was the loudest thing I have ever heard. Judge Henderson didn't just read the papers. She devoured them. Her eyes flicked from the emails to Amanda, then to Kyle, then back to the evidence. Miss Morrison, the judge said, her voice dripping with a terrifying, quiet rage. You stated under penalty of perjury that your aunt was non-verbal and disoriented this morning. Yet, I am looking at a medical evaluation from Dr. Sarah Brennan, completed 48 hours ago, stating Mrs. Harrison is in peak cognitive health. The judge turned to the bailiff. Lock the doors. Nobody leaves this room. Within minutes, the Vermont State Police were in the hallway. Amanda started to scream, a high-pitched, desperate sound. It was Kyle's idea. He said she wouldn't even notice. Aunt Dorothy, please. I didn't say a word. I sat in the front row and watched. I watched as the handcuffs clicked around Amanda's wrists, the same wrists that had worn the gold bracelet I'd given her for her graduation. I watched as Kyle was shoved against the wall. I even watched as my sister Patricia was led out, weeping with shame. This is not a civil matter anymore, Judge Henderson declared. This is a criminal conspiracy. I am referring this to the state's attorney for immediate felony charges of elder abuse, forgery, and fraud. The trial took 8 months. It turns out that when you have 47,000 lines of email evidence and a doctor willing to flip to avoid a prison sentence, justice moves very quickly. Amanda was sentenced to 5 years. Kyle got 4. My sister Patricia, due to her age and cooperation, received a suspended sentence and permanent probation. But the real sentence was the silence. My phone hasn't rung with a family member's voice since that day in court. I returned to my house. The guest cottage was empty. I walked through the rooms and felt the ghosts of the people I thought I knew. I realized that my house wasn't just made of wood and lake views. It was made of my own strength. I didn't retreat into my garden. I went back to work, not in the library, but in the community. I became the woman who fought back. I spent the next 2 years traveling to every senior center in Vermont. I shared the warning signs, the concerned comments about memory, the isolation from friends, the sudden interest in spreadsheets. I met a woman named Susan whose son was trying to take her car. I met a man named George whose daughter was helping with his bank accounts while siphoning thousands. I became their researcher, their librarian of justice. Last week, I sat on my porch and watched the sunset. The chickadees were still there. The lace curtains still filtered the light. I'm 70 now, and my mind is as sharp as a diamond. I am still here. I am still the owner of my life. They tried to write the final chapter of my book for me. They wanted it to be a tragedy of decline and loss. But they forgot that I'm a librarian. I know exactly how to edit a story. And this story, it ends with me standing in the sun, holding the pen. If this story stirred something inside you, don't scroll away in silence. Tap like, it tells us these stories deserve to be told. Subscribe to Vengeful Goddess for unforgettable tales of betrayal, resilience, and justice. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. Turn on the bell icon, so the next story reaches you the moment it drops. Your support keeps these voices alive. Because sometimes, revenge isn't loud, being heard is.